Tonight, Shepparton going under. Fears 2,500 homes will be flooded. Thousands of residents told it's too late to leave. Echuca fighting a losing battle. There's more rain to come and the Murray hasn't peaked yet. The Prime Minister announces cash payments for the hardest hit with beds on offer at Mickleham too. An army of volunteers marches into Maribyrnong as the focus turns to clearing out the mountains of rubbish left behind. Canberra pledges $2 billion for the suburban rail loop while declaring the East-West link a zombie. And ever the optimist, Neil Danaher proves he truly is Mr Brightside.
This is Melbourne's 9 News with Alicia Loxley.
Good evening. Much of Shepparton is under direct threat tonight. Dozens of homes are already inundated and there are predictions that 2,500 properties will go under. Rivers and creeks are converging, cutting off access and power to thousands of people, and the peak is still to come. There is some immediate cash for those who need it most. Anthony Albanese joining Daniel Andrews for an aerial tour of the devastation. Penelope Leash reports from Shepparton.
The city of Greater Shepparton underwater. More than 7,000 homes could soon be either flooded or surrounded by water as creek systems merge with the Goulburn River. With water levels rising, a police rescue was the only way out for some.
It's getting up to the level where it's going to be untenable very shortly. I don't want to stay there and see it wrecked. I'd rather go out and come back to it later and have time to deal with it.
Cars in the centre of the city destroyed. Victoria Park Lake unrecognisable, play equipment and the pool covered.
So the kids are going to be disappointed. We've had COVID, we've had everything else and yeah, tough to see.
The Defence Force at the ready. Across the river, Maribyrnong is cut off. Shepparton's second city all but submerged, water halfway up buildings. The substation inundated, leaving thousands of properties without power.
You just give up.
And you can do what you can do and that's it. So we had to get out.
Got the
house is full
out.
of water.
The urgency of Victoria's flooding crisis still rising. The Premier and the Prime Minister briefed on the devastation.
The people who are making such an extraordinary effort to help their fellow residents here in regional Victoria, the passion and commitment, Australians come together at tough times like this.
In Kyella, streets look more like canals, boats the only traffic through suburbia. Families fending for themselves, cut off from the rest of their community.
Pretty much everyone's stayed. There's been just the odd couple that have left, but they've notified people that they are leaving.
Water lapping at their homes, residents left with all they could carry.
At the front door, but we done a lot of sandbagging in that yesterday.
This is what many of the streets of Kyella look like. The water is flowing and it's continuing to rise, but it's not just coming from the creeks and rivers, it's also coming up through the drains. At Shepparton South, the BP was flooded in, the car wash went under, water at John Greaves' back door, surrounding from all angles his house now an island.
We've got in a lake setting and people pay a lot of money for a lake setting. It's 2 bricks from the floor inside.
At Shepparton North, homeowners getting their pets to higher ground.
Old mate come and help me out with his tinny and we walked the rest of the way.
Others going back in to save what they can.
By the time unloaded the sandbags and that, was sort of up middle of the road, was like up to the floor of the car. That's how quick it had come up.
Wildlife taking a brief reprieve, jumping for higher ground as the water creeps closer.
And Penelope Leash is at the showgrounds tonight where hundreds of displaced residents are staying. Penny, that river, it is due to peak tomorrow morning.
Alicia, the Goulburn River is expected to peak at 12.2 metres, which would flood 2,500 homes up to the floorboards. That is why these volunteers and the ADF are continuing to work around the clock on sandbagging efforts. I want to take you to the other side of the showgrounds here, where we have had people streaming in all afternoon. They're bringing caravans, tents, setting up annexes. They've bought their pets and anything they can salvage. This is their home for now. This and the evacuation centre, the only safe place for them to be. They don't know when they'll be able to return to their houses or what they'll be returning too. Shepparton, Maribyrnong, Orvale and Kyella West remain under evacuation orders that it is too late to leave. So residents are waiting for this peak tonight. If it peaks above that 2.2 metres, it could be an extra 1,600 homes inundated with these flood levels inside. So a very anxious wait for Shepparton and its surrounds.
Certainly is. OK, Penny, thank you. Well, as we go to air tonight, dozens of homes are underwater at Echuca, and while the Campaspe River peaked this afternoon, the threat is far from over. Adam Hegarty explains forecast rain and the threat of a rising Murray River has thousands on edge.
You can see the desperation and you can hear it. The army and residents sandbagging against the tide and the clock. Echuca, like so many others, swept up in rising flood water. Homes lost, along with words.
Been up since 6 yesterday morning, trying to hold it up. Just waiting to see all night. Hasn't stopped rising, it's still rising.
Oh, it's a struggle. I'm 82 and worked me bum off for years to get me house. And only for the neighbours and a lot of the people around here, they've all teamed in well.
Crews did what they could, as did residents, but it was largely in vain.
I'm a bit worried for them now and I would like them to come out.
For those beside the Campaspe River, the gravity sinking in as the water set in. In the end, they just had to watch.
The road in from where we live is just underwater in a lot of places.
It's real.
Never ever seen it before.
By mid-morning, it was time to give in and get out. Animals, children, belongings packed into cars, the rest left behind. Spirits as high as they could be.
Yeah, thanks guys, I appreciate it.
In Echuca, they know this is just the first hit. The flooded Murray River bearing down later this week, along with the rain.
I'm stuffed. Absolutely stuffed, but got to keep soldiering on.
When you go through it yourself, it's just the hardest thing, and you get up and the community is pulled together.
And this is the devastating damage inside. Every room, the yard, the garage, all flooded. They've put items up as high as they can to try to save them, but speaking to the resident here, he says if it goes, it goes. Belongings floating, water up the wall. Dozens here have this to come back to.
All of a sudden, it just started to come in really quick, and we were sitting on the front deck, and all of a sudden we were like, oh, we've got to go. You know, so it was really fast once it came in.
Piles of soil dumped to continue the fight without an end in sight. The flooding here was supposed to peak at midday, but didn't. The town split, residents stranded, some wading through, waist deep. This is what they're trying to hold off. 3 kilometres east, a levee bursting. The flooded Murray spilling over. Victorians trying to hold it together.
Let's go live to Adam Hegarty now in Echuca. Adam, the worst is yet to come there.
Well, Lisa, absolutely. It's hard to believe, isn't it, when you see this flooding behind me, a street under, homes under. Have a look down here. This is how fast the floodwater is flowing along this street and into the areas where there are low-lying homes. The latest from the SES and emergency crews, though, is this is where the flood has peaked for now. But the problem is it'll remain at this level for at least the next 24 hours. Then there's rain on Wednesday, and then on Thursday they're anticipating they get more floodwater from the Murray River. And Alicia, I've been speaking to a lot of residents here, of course, people who've lived here 20 to 30 years. They've never seen anything like this.
Just extraordinary. OK, Adam Hegarty, thank you. Well, the Mickleham quarantine facility will be reopened as crisis accommodation for flood-affected residents. As Eliza Rugg reports, 250 beds will be made available from Tuesday, and there's more help available.
It was built and barely used during the COVID crisis. Now the Mickleham quarantine facility will really be put to the test.
The Commonwealth facility there will be made available with 250 beds for people who've been evacuated from flood-affected communities.
The hub will open its doors on Tuesday.
We'll provide meals to each and every one of those people, 3 meals a day. They'll be able to access healthcare, both physical and mental health care.
There will be dedicated parking on site, while buses will pick up others from flood-affected areas. Charities will donate clothes and sporting equipment for kids, and pets are welcome. Responders on the ground in flood zones will determine who is in most need of a room. From tomorrow, residents needing immediate shelter can call the support service on 1800 560 760.
There's a capacity to open another 250. So this has never been used for this purpose before, so we have to wait and see what sort of demand there'll be.
9,000 Victorians in the 24 hardest hit LGAs have applied for disaster recovery allowances. Each of the councils in those areas are getting $500,000 assistance from the state government, while an additional one-off, non-means tested federal government disaster recovery payments of $1,000 per adult and $400 per eligible child are available to people who live in Campaspe, Greater Shepparton, Maribyrnong, Mitchell and Strathbogie.
To make sure that every support is being provided to these communities that are under such enormous pressure.
That pressure also piling on emergency services at Nanila near Rochester.
There he goes, that's the last.
The police helicopter winched 3 people out of a ute in floodwater.
It was scary, to be honest. The floodwater down there at the farm when it was doing what it was doing, it was crazy.
While in Rochester, some still ignored the warnings. The damage done in 2 days has devastated the Shamrock Hotel.
What do you do? It's your income, it's your life. What do you do?
Those still left, desperate for more helping hands.
It's just that much to do to get back on the feet for everyone involved.
As a swollen Barwon River peaked at Belmont, the water receded around Bendigo and Ballarat, revealing the hidden dangers underneath, proving why drivers simply shouldn't risk it.
And Eliza Rugg is at the State Control Centre. Eliza, rescues are keeping emergency services busy.
They are, Alicia. The SES has performed 520 rescues since last Wednesday when this flood event began. They've received more than 4,500 calls for help and just over 500 in the last 24 hours. For more, I'm joined by Tim Waybush from the SES. Tim, thanks for your time. We know we're expecting a lot of rain over the coming weeks, but let's talk the next 24 hours. What areas are you most concerned about?
Look, in the next 24 hours, it's really about the Shepparton, Maribyrnong, Kyella area, in particular on the Goulburn River there. We're expecting it to peak in the early hours of Monday morning, and then it will stay at that peak throughout the week. Across on the Campaspe River, where Echuca is now isolated from the rest of Victoria, we're going to see a peak there over the next 24 hours, and also at Charlton on the Evacuations.
And we know that we've seen a lot of rescues over the past almost week or so. Some people still weighing up staying or leaving in the face of evacuation orders. What is your advice to those people tonight?
Look, our greatest advice is never attempt to drive through floodwaters. We know that it is the greatest killer in floods in Australia is people attempting to drive through floodwaters. Look for an alternate route, look for higher ground, but don't attempt to drive through floodwaters.
Great advice, Tim Waybush. Thank you for your time. Alicia, a busy 24 hours and another week and weeks ahead for the SES here.
Oh, it certainly is. Thoughts with crews at the moment. All right, Eliza, thank you. Well, clean-up efforts have kicked up a notch in Maribyrnong, a volunteer army stepping in to help strangers get back into their homes. And as Elizabeth Moss tells us, the focus now shifts to the mountains of hard rubbish left behind.
Shovels, saws, even excavators. This is the chorus of the clean-up. The people power of Maribyrnong on full display.
We've got about 15 people here helping today, and it's nearly done. We're going to go next door next and help them.
Hayden Geraldine still taking it in.
You can't believe how disruptive it is. It's just... sorry.
Others, like Robin Beach, not even sure where to start. They just need help.
Our fences are down. Just what do we do? You know, we've already got to worry about being homeless, and I don't know.
Enter the Flood Warriors, a volunteer army today some 50 strong.
You just need to hit the ground running and then all the other people can come in.
Some offering a hug, others a much-needed delivery.
Just come over, give them some food and that for them, so help out where you can.
As to what this clean-up will cost, that's as clear as the mud they're moving. What's become a little clearer, the Premier's take on the controversial Flemington flood wall.
I can confirm that Melbourne Water will conduct a thorough review of this flood event and any impact that wall had on this flood event.
These floorboards in Susan Sanders' home were laid on Thursday afternoon.
What the insurance has indicated is it's Cat 3, so it's equivalent to sewerage through the property.
and that means cutouts of floors.
Her insurance assessor has already been through once. All she can do now is hand over the keys.
What else am I going to do? 6 months. I'd say that's probably optimistic.
But the congregation at this Orthodox church couldn't wait for insurance. Usually a house of worship on a Sunday morning. Today, cold and damp.
Everything is lost. We lost everything almost, none left.
Prayer books and Bibles, many imported from Ethiopia, now soaked. Outside, an assembly line of sorts, washing away the dirt and filth. The one thing remaining, their faith and the hope these clouds will pass.
But we have a God. If God is with us, I think it will come back. That's our hope.
Now, Alicia, of course, all of that junk, that filth has to go somewhere, and unfortunately it's out on the streets. Take a look at this. We've got a freezer, insulation, a bookcase. There's even a bike here, and every street in Maribyrnong looks like this at the moment, this mountain of rubbish just piling up by the minute. And a lot of the residents have been saying, well, where is council? What are they doing about this, and why aren't they helping? I've spoken with council tonight. It says its workers will be on the ground tomorrow to clear all of this hard rubbish. It also says workers have been out trying to clear the debris off roads. That's been their main priority, is getting these roads open and the mud off the streets so residents can move about freely. The other big question for the residents of Maribyrnong, of course, is insurance. What is covered and what is not? It's a bit too soon to tell on that front, but I've spoken with Insurance Australia Group, which encompasses NRMA. They say so far across the state more than 850 insurance claims. You can only imagine that number will skyrocket in the coming days. Alicia, the true cost of this disaster won't be known for some time.
Yes, absolutely. OK, Lizzie Moss, thank you. Well, there'll only be a brief respite from the rain across Victoria, with another system expected to reach the state midweek. Madeline Slattery is here now with the details on this for us. Maddie, where is the heaviest rain forecast?
Well, Alicia, unfortunately, it's likely to be through northern parts of the state. And of course, even moderate falls can have devastating effects on flood levels. It's expected to move into northwestern Victoria late Wednesday, and it'll extend across the state from Thursday. It is a dynamic system, and it's still not possible to pin down exactly where the heaviest rain will be, but it will be north of the ranges. And another system moving in from the west over the weekend is on track to deliver more heavy rain. Flood-stricken areas, including Shepparton and Echuca, are in line for daily totals of 15 to 25 millimetres from Thursday. And at this stage, it looks like the northeast will be hardest hit, with the potential for Wodonga to receive more than 100 millimetres by this time next week. So we will be updating the progress of this approaching system every day, Alicia.
OK, Maddie, we'll see you a bit later on in the bulletin. The day's other top stories are coming up next for you, including Anthony Albanese's multi-billion-dollar infrastructure spend as he declares the East-West link a zombie project. High drama in Footscray. A man runs from police onto the roof of a home, and Neil Danaher's crusade goes the distance with some rock star inspiration.